Welcome aboard the BK Escape Pod. That's right, it's the augmented and bionic podcast version of the live show. You can hear Saturdays from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. Eastern on 100.3 FM and AM 1450 WBHF Radio. You can stream the show live there Saturdays at WBHFradio.org or on the free Tunein app. Look out, here we go. Oh, and by the way, if you hear me give out a telephone number, don't call because this is a rebroadcast, and our janitor Charlie will answer the phone, and believe me, you don't want to talk to him. He's an ornery little cuss.
He's gonna roll away, biscuit cutter.
Now, who can argue with that?
Rev it.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
I'm just trying to process everything here before I get going here.
I was just thinking about that last line.
What?
When I went, off my bike at 25 miles an hour, this turkey flew for a minute.
Right. When was that? When did that happen?
I remember being a kid, I was thinking,
days?
if I just pedal really, really, really fast down the hill, I didn't know that at some point your front tire can start wobbling.
Right. And
then I started going, uh-oh.
There's a maximum speed that bike can hit, that little...
I didn't know that there was where it would start. You know how like that one, the one deficient wheel of your four-cart buggy at the grocery store, all three are working?
We always used
and
seem to get.
That fourth one was going, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that was my front tire. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, phew. And for a moment, it was really quiet. Like it was sailing through the air.
What's wrong with me?
Then I landed.
What's wrong with me when I don't go back and get another shopping cart? I just continue to push that one around. It's like, why don't I just go get another one? And I just don't do it. I'm like, it's not worth the trouble. Let's be different. Let's be unique. Let's let people stare at me. I'm like, it's the cart. It's not me.
It's not me.
I don't have a intestinal problem. Also, when you're a kid and you have a bike, you should never watch news stories about Evel Knievel. I mean, I watched it and I'm like, I can find some cinder blocks with some plywood and prop them up, and I can defy gravity on this bike if I just hit it hard enough. First time I hit it so hard that it just went boom. It just knocked it flat, so I couldn't jump. So next time I reinforced it, and I'm like, okay, so I became airborne, and I'm like, this is awesome. I didn't land like Evel did. He landed on his wheels on the ones I saw.
Well,
he didn't
they
crash.
didn't show you the takes when he crashes.
No, they didn't want us to see those. But when I hit, I hit the ground hard, but I didn't hit the back tire.
See, that's
first.
what you have to do.
I hit the front tire first.
That's not good.
Vertically. I mean, I was almost pointed down to the ground when I hit it.
You learned the slingshot effect of
right.
what happens. Yeah, that has happened to us many a times, learning how to lean back when you hit the ramp, so that way you don't go front end over.
Backwards, yes. Pull them back a little bit and become airborne.
I also learned from Smokey and the Bandit that I liked jumping things, and I also loved... I couldn't burn rubber because all I learned from that was apparently the way you accelerate out of every situation is to leave tire tread.
Exactly.
But if you got really fast and could slam on your brakes, you could leave a mark on the driveway.
Yeah.
My dad came home after taking us to see Smokey and the Bandit the next day at work. He goes, "What have you kids been doing to my driveway?" We had black marks all over because we thought it was the coolest thing because we thought we were Smokey and the Bandit. We were leaving tire treads all over the driveway.
And did your dad leave his mark after that, or was he?
My dad, and I used this in his eulogy, used to brag about burning his tires up, that he and his brothers would work on their car engines to try to be able, because they all had stick shifts.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'd leave 100 feet of rubber in first, about 40 feet in second. We always try to lay more rubber in third. Those stories all of a sudden disappeared when we got to driving age, and my dad goes, I don't know what you kids are doing. Those tires are expensive. I'm like, wait, Dad.
Kids will never forget that story.
You used to burn. No, I didn't.
Right. Check this out. Growing up in rural Alabama the way my dad did, and he was even more rural than when I grew up in the 70s. He was pretty rural when I grew up, but he grew up and was driving around, especially in the early to mid-50s. My hometown, back in the 50s, I got told this, had one traffic light in the middle of town. Mm-hmm. I mean, it finally went from being a flashing yellow light to a real traffic light. Well, Dad and his friends found out where the breaker was on the pole near there where he could turn it off. They just, back then they didn't have anything guarded. You just flip this giant lever and some of the lights and the traffic light would just go off. So they did that one night thinking, oh, since the traffic light's off, we can drive through town as fast as we want because it won't stop us. See, they were actually going to stop if it turned red, so they didn't even think about that. Why not just go? No one's in town. So they turned it off, went out of town about 5 miles thinking, well, it's the 50s. No one's going to be here in the middle of the night. And it's true. We went through town, the middle of this town, with that traffic light out, in this old Ford Fairlane or whatever they were driving at 80 miles an hour right through downtown and didn't stop, and it was great. And I remembered that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Dad, you realize I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life,
right?
And use that when I do something, and go, well, you went through town at 80 miles an hour and killed the traffic light, man. That's no big deal.
I learned all about revisionist history when I started driving.
Revisionist history.
My dad was apparently a Boy Scout when it came to the local roadways, obeying every law and never exceeding the speed limit.
He went back and took those history books and corrected them, didn't he?
Like, Dad, I remember being in the car with you when I was a kid, listening to ABBA, by the way, in his Toyota Celica 5-speed manual, and him barking off the light.
Oh, yeah.
You'd think it was because I was like, oh, Dad, did you hear the tires? The tires made noise. I'm like, okay.
Well, you see what we just did? We just went through a lot of nostalgic stories just then. That's what I do. It's BK on the Air. We talk about nostalgic, retro stuff, even bring up stuff in the past that we shouldn't talk about, maybe. Because, we are recording these shows. They are recorded for procedural view later on. If we happen to say something weird, they go back and check the recording and go, hey, did you really say that? I'm like, I don't remember. I don't remember. So I'm glad that you're here to listen to the program and have fun with us today. Our number is 770-386-1450. If we happen to be talking about something that you want to join in on, or come up with something completely different, and you can. You can also email me at bkontheair@gmail.com. You can find me on social media. I'm out there on Twitter, Facebook. What else am I on? Instagram. That's the only 3 I'm on. I'm not really on a bunch of them. That's the
big
only
3.
One. So, yeah, that's the big 3.
Although TikTok, you and I are probably going to have to embrace that at some point. That seems to be the big one.
I'm going to try to resist that as long as possible.
That's what I'm doing.
And I don't want to shoot any video of myself. I really don't want to do that. I'm a radio guy. I'm an audio guy. No, I like the anonymous being just on audio, even on audio for my podcast on YouTube and everything. It's just my logo with my voice talking. I don't even have
I'm the same way, but I've got friends in the industry, and you look at all of the behind the scenes before the show starts, between the show, little everyone, and because management feels that's audience engagement, and I'm like, why not let them listen to the commercial? I thought that's what they were supposed to do on the break.
So are you saying that the next time we get together for the Wilder Ride, we may be on a Zoom video? We may see us talking.
Well, here's the thing. I have to now
split screen.
No, here's the thing. I'm not doing that yet, but I have to tell every one of my guests now because other shows are doing that. They're like,
yeah,
okay, if we're on Zoom, are you releasing video? No. We use it only to look at each other.
Right,
but
exactly.
So many of them are asking because they're finding out.
Yeah,
I didn't agree for you to show my living room.
Oh yeah,
I would have been in someplace else.
Or with Mrs. BK, who's a school teacher, back when they were Zooming last year because of COVID at schools. You have to remind the kids, okay, we're on Zoom. Don't take your laptop into the bathroom with you. There's no reason to do that. Just don't
Someone should have told Jeffrey Toomey that, but that's a whole different issue.
Oh, no, that's right. Barbara's calling in. I may have to talk to her off the air because we're going to a break right now, but I'll check and see what regular caller Barbara wants. Got a lot of stories come up today. Marvel stuff. I'll review the Eternals. A lot of stories. People passing away.
Hey, can we talk about Obi-Wan?
Yeah, Obi-Wan. All kinds of stuff. It's PK on the Air.
Oh. For some reason or another, you sounded a little taller on radio.
We will return after these messages.
It's Energized Spider-Man with Spider Sense. Battery not included. Turn the Spider Sense activator. Red Dragon appears to go into action. Attach the web climber. Flip the switch, and he climbs automatically. Energized Spider-Man. The motorized web. It pulls, it lifts. The Spider Light to climb at night. The Spider Copter sold separately with Spider Sense panel. The power pack turns on the copter.
We'll have to get the Red Dragon.
Energized Spider-Man with Spider Sense comes with communicator. Spider Copter sold separately from Remco.
Thursday on Hawaii 5-0.
My daughter. Kidnapping? Your father's right.
Is it a kidnapping or a runaway? Then on Barnaby Jones, is JR's friend a murderer?
I didn't mean to kill him. All right, get in, JR.
Hawaii 5-0, then Barnaby Jones, Thursday at 9, 8 Central and Mountain.
Tomorrow on CBS.
Greetings,
Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. Today, it's Hawaii Five-0 by the numbers. So, what do the numbers 5-0 in Hawaii Five-0 refer to? The 50th state, of course. And here's some other interesting numerical facts associated with this classic show. It ran a total of 12 seasons from 1968 to 1980, making it one of the longest-running police dramas ever. Before becoming McGarrett, Jack Lord was Gene Roddenberry's first choice to play Captain Kirk. He was actually the fourth consideration for Hawaii Five-0, which almost went to Gregory Peck. Only 5 days after his audition, Jack was in Hawaii in front of the cameras as Steve McGarrett, and then appeared in all 279 episodes. The groundbreaking opening sequence was listed as number 4 in TV Guide's top 10 best openings ever. The show was nominated for 22 Emmys, with 4 wins, 2 of which went home with the theme composer, Morton Stevens. And finally, the Venture's 1969 album, Hawaii Five-0, made it to number 5 in the top 100 Billboard charts. Now that's what I call hanging 10. I had to throw that in there. For BK on the Air, this is Pat McCormick with the Golden Rage of TV.
Talking about Hawaii Five-0, that's Pat McCormick.
Hawaii 50?
Hawaii 50. Hawaii 5. Other team 0, 5-0.
Hey, I hit 5-0.
You did finally. I noticed that. I hit it about 5 years ago.
I'm still 5-0.
You're not going to be for much longer, though.
About 8 more days.
You'd be Hawaii 5-1. So I think it might have been different. I don't know how much different Star Trek would have been if Jack Lord had been cast as Captain Kirk, because a lot of people come out and they go, oh, well, did you see who the original cast was supposed to be in this? Did you know in Star Wars that Alec Guinness was originally supposed to be Grand Moff Tarkin and Peter Cushing was supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they switched it, like at the last minute before they started filming. I'm like, well, that's the story I hear. But they're like, oh, it would have been terrible if they'd done that. I'm like, no, Star Wars would probably still been really good because they're both really good actors. So I think it would have been, we would have been saying the other thing. We were like, can you imagine Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi? We'd just be, I love the Monday morning quarterbacking, if you'll pardon the sports analogy.
I'm okay
when
with
it comes to movies and what would have happened if someone else had been cast, because you don't really know that. If it's a well-written movie, well-produced, it probably would still be a success if they cast somebody else. But we'll never know because we can't go back and change it, right?
I do think there are moments when you look at how Jack Lord looked, your typical Hollywood actor of that day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Kirk had that same kind of jaw and face.
Sure.
I mean, a lot. And actually, if you go, and which you know
leading
very well.
Man type.
The leading man, exactly. If you look at season 2 of Star Trek Classic, there were a couple episodes where they would just have this other guy that was sort of running the bridge while Kirk was on the planet.
Or missing.
And he was like, I was like, you look like the Kirk stand-in. Like, you're not Kirk, but you got the same kinds of features.
Right. I mean, it's you have to have that... that leadership, that leading man, square jaw, Clark Kent type.
Square jaw,
thing,
broad shouldered, walked with a sense like I'm in charge, but does it in a way that doesn't feel like you're being a jerk.
Have you ever watched the Mind Meld thing where Shatner and Nimoy are actually talking, they're interviewing each other and just being completely candid in Leonard Nimoy's backyard at a picnic table?
I did not yet see that.
They're watching it. It's really good. It was filmed years ago, but it's really cool to watch them just relax all the pretensions and just be totally open about everything, including people that Shatner talks about, people of the cast that didn't like him, and he comes out and talks about that. He was saying, we were both auditioning for roles about the same time in Hollywood in the late 50s and early 60s, and Nimoy goes, yeah, I was auditioning for a lot too. I usually lost out to the guys that, I don't know, look like you. And he goes, I got really mad and resentful of actors that look like you, and I hated that. So, and Bill's like, sorry. He says, we're just two, because they're only 3 days apart in age, believe it or not.
One of the things I love, though, about having gone back to rewatch the classic Trek, how good Leonard Nimoy actually was from day one. Like, the other characters kind of had to learn their character a little bit, or they massaged how they were on camera. Leonard Nimoy was just good.
Well, yeah, he was. And think of what he had to do, though. I mean, he had to be, as an actor, okay, you have to be emotionless. As an actor, you really can't do that. You're told just the opposite. But he had to play a character that was,
but yet does it in a way that's not boring.
No, right, exactly. He was an actor. He was a character with emotions, but was repressing them. Let's make it clear he's half human. So that was part of the character.
I just found that to be cool as an adult going back versus the kid watching it, or the teenager rewatching it, or even the young adult. How just consistently good Leonard Nimoy was on screen. Not that Shatner wasn't, but even his character slowly morphed over time as he kind of got comfortable. I thought Uhura had probably the biggest growth because I did not like her in season 1 at all. It's like, oh, you're just here to sing and be somebody unique on set.
Well, she said that too. She didn't like it. So a lot of them didn't like that. And if you're a supporting character, I can see why. But you say that, and I was flipping around the channels the other day like I do when I'm like trying to search for something. Here's my procedure. I turn the TV on, I flip around for 30 minutes, and then finally just decide, let's just stream something.
There's nothing else.
Yeah. But I waste 30 minutes of my life. Well, I happened upon the 2009 Star Trek movie with Chris Pine.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm watching it, and it's the scene where he's come back to the Enterprise. Kirk has come back to the Enterprise, and he's got to convince Spock of something, but he's got to make him mad to make him look like he's unfit for command.
Correct.
So he played on his emotions and really started to really tick him off because he's half human, right? So, and he did it, and he got mad and throws Kirk down and starts choking him, and he has to stop, and he succeeded. That was a great scene that they did. Was right there showing Zachary Quinto playing a lot like Leonard Nimoy.
I love all of their interactions.
But I happened on that scene and saw it. I'm like, that was pretty well done.
Good scene.
I never had a problem with the actors in that movie. They all fit into their character. Chris Pine was very Kirk-like, cocky, the guy we were talking about. Quinto was great as Spock. And let's be honest, Carl Urban is McCoy. Probably the best out of the three.
Was he not spot
Probably the best out of the three. So, yeah. So
I love Carl Urban.
A lot of channel surfing at my house. We're finding a lot.
It's so funny you said that. I've done this now twice. Where I'm like, there's got to be something fun streaming at this point. I just will say, I spent probably an hour between watching previews as you stop on something,
right,
and realize I can't figure out what to watch.
And
I end up not watching anything.
To see if you might want to watch it or not.
Right.
And you can't stop it now because when you start highlighting things, the preview will start on Netflix immediately. Start playing it. And I'm missing watching stuff with Mrs. BK because for a long time we were watching shows together. Now she's watching stuff that I don't really care about watching, but I have to watch it when I'm eating dinner. I'm in the living room with her. We watched The Sopranos together. We watched the entire run of Breaking Bad together. We watched all of Game of Thrones together. We watched a lot of things together, which was fun. But now she's watching that show, or she just finished the first season of the Squid Game show.
Is that any good?
And she liked it. And what I saw of it, I'm like, it wasn't my cup of tea, but it's popular.
Is it like Hunger Games but a different setting? 'Cause that's what it kind of looked like.
Good way to explain it. It's filmed. It's a Korean show and it's with subtitles, but it's a very interesting way that they've done it. But just because something's popular and everyone likes it, that doesn't mean I'm going to like it. So I'll try to watch stuff. So now we're in that mode where we're searching. Let's search for a show we can watch together because she watches a lot of baking shows. She watches the Great British Baking Show, which when I see that show, everyone's so bloody nice to each other on there. There's no arguments or anything. And the worst it gets on the Great British Baking Show is someone really messes up a dish or a baking project, and the judges go, "Oh, you didn't quite get that, did you? On to the next one." That's as rough as it gets. I want to do the Great British Baking Show, but introduce Gordon Ramsay into it. That's what I want to do. I want to see the sparks fly. That would be fun. She's like, "No, this show's great. You don't want to ruin it like that." We got to find a show that we can watch together because I'm really hard to try to find. I was thinking about watching The Witcher because I hear if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'd like The Witcher with Henry Cavill. I haven't seen that. There's a lot of other things that are out there, but I'm torn about what to watch. I'm still stuck in watching old shows right now, and she doesn't want to watch old shows, so we're not watching anything together. So we got to hurry up and watch a TV show together. Our marriage is over. I
can tell you, I did watch The Witcher season 1. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was okay.
Right.
And I would say go into it understanding it is not Game of Thrones.
Right.
It is nowhere close.
And I'm a big Henry Cavill fan. I mean, I made no
I thought he did a good job coming up with a different character.
I'd love to see him as James Bond. I think he would make a good one. But he's now saying, hey, listen, I'd really love to play James Bond. He goes, I'm not ready to hang up my Superman cape either if they still want me to do Superman again. And he goes, and plus, hey, Marvel, I'd even like to play Captain Britain if you guys are wanting to do a Captain, because another Marvel character that I've heard rumors about maybe them doing, which is kind of the male character of the real universe that Peggy Carter wound up being in the What If. There really is a Captain Britain in Marvel that's kind of the flip side of Captain America in England. So he's up for playing that. So I'm looking forward to whatever they're going to do coming up. I'm not going to get into it in depth, but I'll start it now and probably finish it after we flash the audience. I went and saw the Eternals last weekend, and the Eternals, as far as a scale goes, I would give it a good 6.5 out of 10, which to me means it's not a bad movie. It's not the best, but it's not bad. But on thumbs up or thumbs down, if you want to just go completely thumbs up and thumbs down, I'll give it a thumbs up, meaning you should see it. It's part of the Marvel universe. Mm-hmm. And go see it because it's very different. I'll warn you. It's a big movie. It's heavy-handed at times. There's a lot of giant ideas that might go over a lot of people's heads. And let's face it, it's from the mind of Jack Kirby, who created celestial-type beings and the new gods for DC Comics back in the 70s. And this man had a huge imagination. And if you ever look at his artwork, you're like, where does that come from in your head? How do you come up with that? It's just gigantic-looking outer space, other dimensional stuff that I can't wrap my... Kind of like, he's maybe the Arthur C. Clarke of artists, if that makes any sense to you at all. Philip K. Dick that wrote Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, Blade Runner. The Eternals is a big movie, and some people say it collapses under its own weight. It's so big. But I'm like, well, okay, that's okay to say. But it's not the Avengers. It's not Captain America. It's not Iron Man. And other than that, I'm fine with it. But I did have a few other problems with it, with the way the movie's presented in a very prequel George Lucas-ish kind of way. Not the whole thing, but some of it felt like that because I'm like, okay, let's interject a little bit of levity here somewhere, and humor would be nice, just to at least, even the biggest dramas in the world may have a funny scene in it or something like that. And the Eternals has that. More when we come back.
The worldwide phenomenon
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
S-H-A-N-G, Shang, is now streaming
Nice one.
on Disney+.
Oh! Where's his face?
He's a bit sensitive about that.
Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi, now streaming on Disney+.
Wake up, campers. Time for breakfast. Got it, Mom. You can't have cookies for breakfast.
But you can have Cookie Crisp. You can have that crunchy cookie taste with lots of chocolatey chips.
Hey, it looks like little chocolate chip cookies
that stay crispy in milk.
It's part of a complete breakfast. So just remember this. You can have Cookie Crisp.
You can get 4 Superstar baseball cards free in specially marked boxes of Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., and Cookie Crisp cereals. 33 cards in all.
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air here on AM 1450 and 100.3 FM WBHF. I want to tell you about Cartersville Bicycle Service and Supply. Right now, they've got a great holiday offer for you at Cartersville Bicycle. From now until the end of the year, you can purchase a new bike at Cartersville Bicycle and get a limb helmet for free. Who says you don't get anything for free anymore? These helmets retail between $40 and $100. Lots of styles, colors, and to choose from. And they've still got over 300 bicycles in stock. There are no restrictions and no minimums on this deal. See, it gets even better. They're located at the corner of West Avenue and South Tennessee Street and open 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. Call them at 470-315-BIKE. That's 470-315-2453. Or just search Cartersville Bicycle on Facebook. Cartersville Bicycle. Enjoy the ride. It's that time that we like to, at least here on BK on the Air, to... Yeah, we flash the audience of the news, the weird, the strange, the goofy, the crazy.
Wow, those are new words.
Hey, that fits the template of this show to a T. I've got the first news. From UPI, a California woman who didn't have time to make it to the hospital when she went into labor delivered her baby in the front yard. Where, well, it gets better, where the entire scene was recorded by her doorbell camera.
Oh, wow.
This kid is going to have to endure this video for the rest of its life. Emily Johnson of Vacaville said she and her husband Michael weren't in a huge rush to get to the hospital when her contractions started on November 4th, a week before her due date, because they were 10 minutes apart and the couple's house is only a 5-minute drive from the hospital. Johnson said she made it as far as the car in the driveway before she realized she wouldn't get to the hospital in time. Johnson delivered baby Thomas with help from her mother, Christy Sparks. Emergency responders arrived just after the infant was born. Well,
wow!
I wonder if the emergency responders were caught on video too. Probably, I haven't seen the video, so I can think they probably are.
Good job. I guess we're done here.
Isn't it great to hear that these Ring doorbell things are really helping and catching a lot more things than we thought they would, not just bad guys. I mean, even bad guys in the neighborhood. Our local sheriff here in Bartow County, and I'm sure a lot of counties, say, hey, something goes down in the neighborhood, they're like, how many people can have a Ring recording that we might can review to see what's going on?
That's so
and
funny.
they'll only do that if you give them permission to.
I just interviewed Sheriff Millsap last week for his monthly check-in, and he said, look, folks, They're not that expensive, but it's well worth the investment. Get a ring. He literally said, or whatever knockoff, but get one.
Get one that works.
Because he said it's great. It lets you know when something's delivered, and if somebody steals it, he goes, we got a lot of porch pirates still.
And who knows, something may go down in your neighborhood,
right?
At a neighbor's house, or God forbid, your house, and it may do its job and help nail the bad guy, and Sergeant Friday can go pick up the guy and bring him to jail.
Let's go after the bad guys. All right, guess what? I've got the next news.
I'm all for putting the bad guy there.
From UPI, a French man has set a new world record, an altitude record, more than 13,000 feet by climbing up on top of a hot air balloon to set the feet for a charity telethon.
Oh, you know why I gave you this one.
Is it because I go to France? Rémi Ouvrard set the record on Wednesday when he stood on top of the balloon more than 2 miles above the surface of the Earth over western France. Ouvrard, age 28, was in a white spacesuit on top of a balloon piloted by his father over Châtellerault. The daredevil performed the stunt for France's annual telethon charity event, which raises money for neuromuscular disease research. Ouvrard also held the previous record set in 2019 of almost 4,000 feet.
So he broke his own record.
By a lot.
And we've talked about her on the show before, about your mom being French.
She'd be
French-Canadian,
French
and she can speak fluent French. And we also joked that how, I guess maybe she listens to my show and not yours, and you're her son.
Correct.
She may listen to your show.
She only cares about you.
That. Did I ever tell you that a few months ago I did send her a private message on Facebook, and I said, hey, would you like to do a promo for my show in French and then translate it? It'd be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
And a few days went by. I never told you this. A few days went by, and she responded, and she goes, oh, goodness, no, I can't do that.
Oh, goodness,
she can't do that. So you obviously didn't get your performing, acting a fool, going crazy genes from your mom. You got it somewhere else in your family because she's not.
No, I think that was the cable guy.
Really? The milkman? Was it the milkman?
She's listening going,
hey,
don't you tell people that.
Now she's going to send another message.
This is where it's more than the wife. Now it's the mom who's listening right this second.
When you said something, right? I got the next news. Oui, monsieur. From UPI, a woman who decided to run the distance of a marathon every day during COVID-19 lockdown earned a Guinness World Record by running 95 marathon distances in 95 days. That's okay.
That's a lot.
Alyssa Clark, who was originally from Burlington, Vermont, said she was living in Italy in March of 2020 when the government issued its first stay-home order, and she soon discovered the summer marathons that she had been training for were canceled. Clark said she decided to run the distance of a marathon during every day of lockdown, expecting the project to last for about 15 days, but she kept going, finding time to run while moving to Naples, Florida. Clark, who used a treadmill some days and ran outside when possible, ended up running 95 marathon distances in 95 days. That's interesting. The runner said she had started a 96th marathon, but decided to stop partway through when she felt ill. Clark only later learned that she was experiencing some symptoms from COVID-19, even at home. Wait a minute. How's that possible? She still got it.
Stop.
She recently received – I'm not supposed to ask questions, I know. She recently received word from Guinness that she was the record holder for most consecutive days to run a marathon distance. So, wow, even getting COVID and being stuck inside, she still managed to break a record.
I got to ask my buddy Chris in the UK, who ran his first marathon and was just – put out for like a week and a half, and that was a year and a half of training. And after a 26-mile run at once, one day, it was a week and a half of him just going, I don't want to move, don't touch me, I hurt, my brain feels weird.
Is it worth it?
And she did 95 in a row?
Yeah, including, running on a treadmill.
There are just some people that have a special gift, and I don't have it.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got gifts, all right. They're just different kind of gifts.
All right, I've got the next news.
We both have the gift of gab.
Well, we have that too. Okay.
Well, yeah, on top of that other thing.
All right. An Apple I computer dating to 1976 is up for auction in California, and the auctioneer said they expect to fetch $600,000.
$100,000.
Makes you wish you had hung on to yours, doesn't it?
That and several Nintendo original releases too, yeah.
John Moran, auctioneer, said that the Apple I, which was designed by Steve Wozniak and assembled and tested by Steve Jobs, had 2 previous owners before going on the auction block. The lot comes with a a Datanetics keyboard revision D,
I don't know what that is.
a 1986 Panasonic video monitor, some relevant cords, which you need now, an Apple I basic manual, the Apple I operating guide, the MOS 6502 programming manual, and 2 Apple I software cassette tapes. Because remember, before disk drives, you had cassette.
Which I never used.
Only 200 Apple I computers were ever made by Jobs and Wozniak. A working Apple I sold for $671,000 when it was auctioned in Germany back in 2013. The auction house said bidding opened Tuesday morning.
Just to show you how ignorant I was, I went over to a friend's house that had one of the old computers back in the mid-'80s, early 80s, and he had a little cassette player beside the computer. I'm like, oh, you listen to music while you're on the computer?
Yeah.
He's like, no. I said, I do, but it's on the stereo over there. This is for something else.
My buddy, before we got disc drives, one of the games we used to play was Beachhead on the Commodore 64. It was on cassette, and to load on cassette, you would hit play and come back 20 minutes later, and the game would be ready to play.
20 minutes later.
Yep. We would have to know we were going to get together to play Beachhead, put the cassette in, hit play, and we'd go do something outside, run around, then come back and then play.
First computer I ever had was an old, weird IBM computer with the big giant drive that sits on your on the desk. Then you put the screen on top, and it was the green monochrome screen. And all I used it for is like, oh, by the way, you can log on this thing and chat with people who are fans of things that you like in Atlanta, and just say hey and chat to them.
If you had a modem,
yeah, and that's all I had a modem. That's all I did with the first computer. Then eventually, I got a hand-me-down as my first one. I got a PowerPC Mac from a friend of mine, and had it for years and just used that thing. I mean, it was a workhorse. Old computer stuff. It's nostalgia. Speaking on there.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The way some business people spend their time has very little to do with a clock. At Apple, we understand that business as usual isn't anymore. That's why we make the most advanced personal computers in the world. And why soon there'll be just 2 kinds of people.
Hi.
Those who use computers.
Yeah, I'll be home for breakfast.
And those who use apples.
This is Evel Knievel and the Evel Knievel shock-absorbing stunt cycle. You can make them do wheelies, backstands, even mid-air somersaults. And for that big jump, here's Evel, up and over that 4-foot ditch. Evel Knievel, sold separately or with the Evel Knievel stunt cycle from Ideal.
When it comes to shows about movies and comic books, heroes and crazy news, I tune into PK on the air from 10 to noon Saturdays.
Nice big iron pumper there. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. There's somebody else who wants to come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe that has not given the chance yet. I got a
really? As what?
I don't know.
Just to do it, I guess.
Big lumbering guy who talks like this. They'll find a place for him. They found a place for Sylvester Stallone. I'm sure they could find a place for him. Also, I got a story about that coming up. Did you see the Rocky IV director's cut was in the theaters thanks to Fathom Events this week? I think it was one day this week. I can't remember what day. But for one day, you could see it, and now it's streaming, and I haven't seen it yet. Probably one of the weakest Rocky films, but because of it's just over the top ridiculous. It's funny to watch the Rocky films start out as an Academy Award caliber first film, and then it worked its way into self-parody, which was, I guess, okay, but they're very successful. Even Rocky V, which some people think is the worst, kind of went back to the roots of the first film and went backwards in a less intense type story. But Rocky IV was a big success.
It was a huge box office
He
draw.
wanted a director's cut made, and they let him do it. So it would be interesting to see just what's different
when
about
you
it.
have buckets of money, you can make things happen. I will tell you, I had heard, because, a lot of the Facebook pages that I follow are about, like, fans of war movies and things like that. And First Blood has been coming up as, like, well, do you consider First Blood a war movie? It's a Vietnam vets experience.
War-related film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so it's
kind of,
tangentially. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm hearing that Sylvester Stallone is talking about in development of a Rambo series. Like something streaming.
With someone playing John Rambo,
Right.
probably. And
Not
I wonder,
him.
would it be set in Vietnam?
I don't know.
Would it be a prequel? It would be a perfect thing to
But
do. We
I
would
thought
know
it'd
he
be
wouldn't get
interesting.
killed in it.
I think it'd be better than trying to do a movie because the
It
one,
would.
Last Blood or whatever, I
Right.
heard really wasn't that good.
It was okay. I liked the one before it called Rambo. It was just called Rambo. It was if he would have ended with that one, it would have been great. This one wasn't horrible. I thought it was. It's
I
him
think
as an older guy.
You
It
understood
worked,
what he
but
was trying to
I
do.
did, yeah.
It just
Would I watch it over and over again? No, probably not. The first Rambo film is the best one. First Blood is from a novel by John Merrill, I think is his name, and he wrote a Captain America graphic novel once, and it was very good too, tied in with war. And the First Blood is a great movie directed by Ted Kotcheff, who directed a movie called Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman, which is really good. Ted Kotcheff's got a really close relation with Vietnam and stuff as a writer, and I thought First Blood was a great movie.
It is a very
if
good
they'd
movie.
never made another one, that would have been fine because it was great. He actually Rambo died at the end of the book.
Right.
He was accidentally shot, I think, at the end of the film, and they filmed his death in the film. If you have the DVD or the Blu-ray and watch the extra features, you can watch the scene that Richard Crenna and Sylvester Stallone filmed his death, where he accidentally gets shot at the end and dies. And why they chose not to do that, because there was no sequels back then going on. Stallone had really only done Rocky since then. It was his big movie. But why they decided not to kill him? Maybe they saw something there. I don't know. And
I just remember
went on
how
to
much
do
I
stuff.
loved it, and it made such an impact watching it because it was a typical story. Here's just a guy trying to figure his way back into the world,
Yeah.
and no one giving him the chance, and he breaks, and he just
They pushed him too far.
pushed
They
him.
really did.
He was harassed for no apparent reason. He was arrested for no particular crime. Starting to dislike you. Lot. They thought they'd found an easy mark. They were wrong. Sylvester Stallone. This time he's fighting for his life. First Blood. Rated R. Starts Friday, October 22nd at theaters everywhere.
It's great.
And it really has, as far as what's going on, sure, Rambo, the second one and the third one and onward is a continuation of that same character. But none of them recaptured the seriousness, what I like to say, Academy Award quality than the first one did. They
Right.
never, kind of like the Rocky
Like
films,
Rocky.
same way. Same way. The
Exactly.
first film is very serious. And by the way, the soundtrack to First Blood is great. It's Jerry Goldsmith, and what a great soundtrack! It's a very. If you listen to the theme at the beginning and his closing theme and the stuff in the middle, it's a great soundtrack. Another win by Jerry Goldsmith, who we're both big fans of, and talking about Poltergeist music during our Halloween show. By the way, if you missed our Halloween show, you can check out my YouTube channel and check out our Facebook pages. BK on there, I posted on there. You can hear how much fun we had Halloween night here at WBHF, like we do every year. I got one more news from UPI. A Dartmouth University professor's 10-foot-high version of a classic Atari 2600 video game joystick has been dubbed the largest video game joystick in the world by Guinness World Records. Well, imagine that. What else could they dub it but
Who wanted to build a 10-foot tall joystick?
I'll tell you who, Mary Flanagan, who's a game designer.
Mary Flanagan, did
an
she?
artist. In addition to being Dartmouth's Sherman Fairchild Distinguished Professor in Digital Humanities, that's also the hat she has, she said she built the scaled-up Atari joystick, which she dubbed Giant Joystick, out of wood, rubber, and steel in 2006. Everybody deserves a giant joystick. You need to have one of wood, rubber, and steel. The joystick, which weighs about 3,000 pounds, is designed to take single-player classic Atari games like Space Invaders, Asteroids, and Centipede, which we've all played, and make them into a multiplayer experiences. Flanagan said the joystick is designed to be operated by two or more people at once.
I was
So
going to say, don't you?
One person's got to be the trigger,
pressing the button,
and the other person's got to move that big joystick thing around. And
big dummy.
Probably, if you weigh as much as I do, helps a lot. when you try to push that
3,000
thing.
pounds.
That would be a challenge to try to coordinate to play the games with that thing. It'd be completely different than trying to play it with the handheld one, the little one.
Wow.
How many hours do I have in my hand with that Atari 2600 joystick? I mean, I've got a lot of. I mean, I played.
Well, we've all probably worn them out and had to go buy replacements.
Oh, they were. But to me, anybody says video game joystick, I know that they came out with the Nintendos, the Sonys, all the joystick, the little hand controls and stuff. When I think of the word joystick, though, because the later controls really didn't have sticks, they had that little thing that stuck up a little bit that you could move, and then the other ones, the directional ones, on the other side. I think of joystick. I think of the old Atari 2600 in my mind.
Because the other ones are game controllers.
Yeah, which happened to have little controllers that knew what the joystick did.
In fact, when you go to buy like a PS4 controller, it's not a PS4 joystick.
In fact, when I got the first, I think it was the first generation Xbox or the second one, and I saw the controller, I hadn't really played games a lot since the Atari 7800 or 2600, and I looked at that and I'm like, how many buttons are on this? There's 6 over here with little triangle, square, and a circle on them. Then you got a little directional control, kind of like the old Nintendo thing over here. Then you got trigger buttons for your fingers on the back. Then you got these other buttons in the back. Then you got these buttons in the center. Then you got these over here. Then you got some on the side. What am I supposed to do?
It is
overwhelming at first, because some games when you play you don't use all of them.
Right.
Some of them you don't. But some of them are pretty intricate. Anyway, 770-386-1450 is our number if you want to give us a call. Yeah, back to the Eternals. If you want to go see the Eternals, please do so. I mean, it's a Marvel film. Don't expect regular Marvel fare with it. Much like, Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't like the other films. Doctor Strange wasn't like the other films. They took a different turn with those. What else was different? Black Panther went in kind of another direction, which was very different from the Avengers, even though he became an Avenger. I think that's what they do, is they want to make all these things different, much like how the comic books were all different. So, but if they've rolled the dice here, Marvel, and they've come up with something that falls way short in the box office, at least, it's not going to stop the films. Because let's face it, Shang-Chi came out and was a success. The Eternals is on its way to be a financial success, just by how much we don't know. But these two films, Marvel fans are going to see them, like them or not. Everyone's just waiting for next month in Spider-Man, because they're just waiting for the big event. I think Spider-Man's going to break. From what I've heard about it, it's going to break. It's going to break something. It's going to break the internet. It's going to break theaters. It's going to break people's minds. It's a multiverse break. It's going to break something. It really is.
I'm really looking forward to it.
It's on track. Some people are saying it's going to outgross Avengers Endgame.
Really?
That's what some people are predicting. I'm like, okay,
that's saying a lot.
That's saying a lot. But I'm not going to sit there and when someone tells me that, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh no, there's no way that's going to happen. I'm not going to say that, because who knows. Things happen plus when I try to predict something, I'm usually always wrong. So I like to
the
pull
coolest
back
thing
from
about the new Spider-Man that I think I'm looking forward to is I think Tom Holland has been a great cast. I think he is Spider-Man to me. I mean, I love Tobey Maguire. I love the movies, but I think Tom Holland has been my
there are other Spider-Man
as far as performer. But to have then Doc Strange as part of it, because I love the Doc Strange movie. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he's great. And to play this character with Peter Parker, the two of them kind of, and knowing that they had to go on tour together during Endgame because Tom Holland couldn't contain himself. So I wonder how much of that,
don't say that,
mentor-mentee relationship continues
and they're both
into
British,
the movie.
So maybe that helped too. He's like
acting
like his dad. But again, more pictures have leaked online about, here's Tobey Maguire with him in a scene. Who knows if they're photoshopped or not?
It could be all fake. We don't know.
But it looks real because now you can Photoshop a picture to make it look distressed. Make it look like, oh, this is a vid shot from the film taken off from the camera. So all the other Spider-Mans are supposedly in it. We know that Michael Keaton, who played the Vulture, is in Morbius that's coming out next year. So they may be closing in on merging everything together that they didn't own the rights to before. And they're going to use this multiverse thing to tie everything in. Well, all those things happen, but they happen somewhere
That would
else.
explain why you have Tom Holland in the Venom post-credit.
Right. We call that the Sony-verse.
The Sony-verse.
The Sony Marvel-verse. So, it's going to be fun to see him tied in. I've even seen pictures of Charlie Cox as Daredevil in it, too. So,
the most recent story I read about that is that Marvel wants to, quote, reboot Daredevil to make sure that he fits into the universe. Which I'm like, well, how different was he from the television show?
Why would you reboot him? Because even on Netflix, Daredevil's still tied into the MCU. It was part of. They even referenced a couple of things.
I have to also remember, we're talking about Gen Z writers, and they may be using this term reboot to mean reimagined in the universe or they're going to maybe have to massage some of the back. I don't know. They said reboot. That's just the story headline.
You keep using that word reboot, and I don't think you know what it means.
I don't think it means what you think it does.
I don't think that they know what it means.
Because I
think that's what it's. I think you're right.
Netflix's series kept referencing the guys, the Avengers.
Sure, yeah,
they're obviously part of the same universe.
Yes. I think that reboot. I think they're just saying we're going to make a new. We're going to introduce him again. That's just kind of all they mean.
I think, and maybe in the films rather than small screen. But they may do small. I don't know.
So we've got that to look forward to. We had Moon Knight trailer premiered, which looks fascinating as well. It's kind of Marvel's version of Batman, believe it or not, in a funny way. Echo is coming out. They got a character named Echo with Marvel. We got Hawkeye to look forward to. Big Christmas show coming out. I think is going to be it looks really great.
Hawkeye looks so good.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to go into the world of Star Wars with Star Wars Extra, and it might give us a chance to talk about how much we're looking forward to Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out.
Hello there.
Be great too. Hello there.
Another happy landing.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
The galaxy explodes. The rebels return. You can relive it all with Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection.
Rebel attack squad ahead.
New Imperial shuttle. You have to put it together. Batteries not included. Action figures each sold separately.
After him. Excellent, Lord Vader. Death Star signaling. Wings up. Prepare to land. Landing gear down. Ramp engage. This battle station better be ready or... Yes, my Emperor.
New Imperial shuttle. Action figures sold separately. From Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection.
We're lost. My fault, but you... No!
Neither!
Food? Yes, crunchy food. C-3POs.
New Kellogg's C-3POs. Twin rings phase together for a crunchy new force at breakfast.
Yeah, the Force is with us.
A delicious part of this nutritious breakfast.
Okay!
More? Of course. How much?
Yeah!
Oh, my.
C-3POs. A new force at breakfast.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
Welcome to another edition of Star Wars Extra, bringing you the latest from the Star Wars galaxy. I'm your host, Mike Mann.
Hello there.
This week has been absolutely packed with Star Wars news. Some of the noteworthy bits include LEGO released their Star Wars Ultimate Collector's Series AT-AT, running a whopping $800. This 6,795-piece set is absolutely brilliant, literally inside and out, and also comes to scale with LEGO minifigs. Patty Jenkins' Star Wars Rogue Squadron is put on hold indefinitely due to the director's previous obligations and projects. Rogue Squadron was scheduled to begin filming next year. To commemorate the 10-year anniversary of the landmark The Old Republic video game classic, BioWare has released the in-story cinematics in an upgrade to a breathtaking 4K rendition.
Our time has come. For 300 years, we prepared, we grew stronger, while you rested in your cradle of power.
And the absolute most amazing highlights of the week come to us from Disney Plus Day. As previously announced, Disney released the Boba Fett special Under the Helmet, a documentary of the humble beginnings of the elusive bounty hunter Boba Fett. The special look goes into detail from the beginning concept drawings and the journey Fett took to his first on-screen appearance. His 4 lines in less than 7 minutes of screen time in The Empire Strikes Back would lead the bounty hunter to be an instant cult classic. So much so that Boba Fett has returned in the current Star Wars as a main pivotal character. George Lucas, Dave Filoni, and many others add commentary to the story and influence Boba Fett has had and continues to add to the Star Wars universe. Lucasfilm released a sizzle reel teasing fans who are more than eager for the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Featured in the teaser are concept pieces featuring more than jaw-dropping locations and characters. The special release also shares some insight into the filming and storyline as explained by Ewan McGregor and Deborah Chow. Also featured was an amazing teaser of Hayden Christensen dueling it out once again with his lightsaber. Even this brief insight to the first standalone Star Wars anthology series adds to the already unbelievable intense level of anticipation for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. The sizzle also confirms that the Obi-Wan Kenobi series will be released next year, yet no specific date was mentioned.
I like it.
That's all the time we have. This episode was written by Droilag Media exclusively for Star Wars Extra. Be sure to tune back in next week for all the latest and greatest in Star Warsing. For Star Wars Extra, I'm Mike Mann. And now, back to BK on the air.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness! I hate you! You were my brother, Anakin! I loved you!
There's Ewan McGregor encountering Anakin for the last time, just as the flames engulf him there on Mustafar. One of his shining moments, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. You just heard the Star Wars Extra report from Mike Mann. We have him every week talking about Star Wars, and I appreciate them being there. When we first heard about the show Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out, I think at first they were just calling it Obi-Wan, and they changed it. I guess it's going to be called his whole name now. A few years back. I'm sure that you are with me. We were pretty excited to hear about that in the works, and the fact that Ewan McGregor is coming back to play him, they're not going to replace him with another actor, that made us felt even better because we're big fans of his.
Yeah. Well, we know he lobbied for it for a long time.
Pirate wheel! 1-2, pick your target. Too many, Captain! Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6! Anybody cover me? I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here! Watch your left! I can't shake them! I'm hit! Where's the reinforcements?
There's a hunger for this character to come back. The fans have been waiting long enough, you know?
Something that's extremely exciting is the return of, obviously, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is quite a dark time that we're coming into with him. Just being a Jedi, it's not safe. There's Jedi hunters out there.
At least he has this one task left, which is to keep Luke safe.
That's definitely a starting place for our story. The interesting thing is going to be where it goes from there.
The most beautiful thing of all is that it's brought me back together with Hayden.
We are bringing back Hayden Christensen to reprise the role of Darth Vader. We couldn't tell the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi without addressing Anakin or Vader.
Have another swing at each other. It might be quite satisfying for everybody. We hope that you enjoy it as much as we enjoy making it.
And I think had it not been for the success of... honestly, I know they were in the talks, but I really believe that when The Mandalorian was as big as it was and they saw what they had in their hands, they were like, yeah, this is pretty much a done deal.
That cemented... They're like, okay, we can do this. People are willing to accept this on Disney Plus as a show. And a lot of people were saying, hey, The Mandalorian kind of rekindled after the prequels and the sequels that some people didn't like either by the newer movies. They're like, yeah, this is a return to Star Wars that we know.
Right.
And this universe that we expect certain things from. And The Mandalorian gave us a lot of that, which was great, including Luke at the end, of a season finale coming back just to see what Luke's been up to right after Return of the Jedi, not too long afterwards. So,
it's been... Yeah. It's reinvigorated what Star Wars used to do for us. Like it felt like we were back. And I don't want to sound like that person. The prequels could have been fantastic. Right. They were just so poorly written and conceived.
And let's just say that right now, we know that they were financial successes, though. How could they not be? They were incredibly successful. They were the way a lot of kids discovered Star Wars because that was the first Star Wars they saw as a kid, kind of like Star Wars and the original ones were the world we saw as a kid. And I can understand if a kid comes up that's, many, many years younger than me and says, that Phantom Menace, I loved that when I saw it. Of course you did. I have nothing wrong with that. Those are your Star Wars films, and then you go back and watch the ones that we grew up with. And the sequels came along. Some people liked them, some people didn't. I think more people liked the later sequels than the prequels.
Yeah, I think they were.
So I don't know what it is about that, but everyone has. There's something for everybody in Star Wars, and if you like all of them, fine. I'm not going to sit there and tell you you're wrong about anything, except if you like Jar Jar, then you're wrong. But sorry.
Oh,
but yeah.
Side note: Did you see the guy that re-envisioned Jar Jar as an evil Sith
and
talked
about that before.
Redecorated him?
I did. Yeah.
I would have been into that Jar Jar.
I could see that. That makes total sense when you watch that.
Terrifying.
Jar Jar
darkened and blackened, and
he's actually the reason for a lot of bad things happening. His decisions and what he did. Sith.
That's good. But side note, back to Kenobi. The fact that Ewan McGregor, which was the one consistent shining light through all three of the prequels.
And he really was.
even when he had bad lines, he somehow made them work.
And we like him as an actor. He's really
Can you
talented.
imagine if you give him a solid script, a story arc? And I get the big screen is great, but the little screen allows for a longer story arc with a lot more to tell, a lot more acting. You get to watch these guys that we've seen on the big screen now work through a character, work through a storyline. I'm excited.
And it's really, let's be honest, it's not a little screen anymore. We're not watching little 25-inch picture tube televisions.
Dude,
we have big screens at home, not as big as the theater, but we still have big ones.
The wife
that are
and I are
nice.
thinking 86 inches is a good-sized TV now.
Yeah.
86?
Yeah. I saw one in the store the other day. I'm like, is it time to
We were
get
like,
another one?
we could now take the 65 and put it in the spare room as a side, like that's the little
Your
TV
spare
that
room's big enough for that? Okay, good. That's nice to
like
know
it's
that.
a whole wall, but that's okay. Yeah, we're thinking. I said, look, all I want for
Yeah.
Christmas, we don't need anything, just a bigger TV.
Well, we're looking forward to it. I hear it's going to be on the epic scale of Game of Thrones, Obi-Wan Kenobi is. And that's even better, too, because just give me a good story and entertaining, which I think they will.
It's got to be a good story.
It's supposed to be with us.
Good job.
And now, these messages.
Laser guns, test firing, release landing gear.
Kenner Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, its new Rebel Armored Snowspeeder. Batteries not included.
You got my message.
C-3PO and Rebel Soldier action figures each sold separately.
We'll get you to safety. The Empire forces. We've got to escape.
Snowspeeder has laser guns with sound and light action.
Got 'em. Back to the Rebel base.
Rebel Armored Snowspeeder from Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection. You have to put it together. Action figures each sold separately. New from Kenner.
Listen, somebody's in the galley. Captain Crunch.
It's true. You can't get away with a crunch.
Cause the Crunch always gives you away.
And now, the Captain Crunch padlock and key. You snap it together and lock up lots of things, like your lunchbox, a drawer, your dog, and more. The padlock and key. One is specially marked boxes of Captain Crunch cereals. Captain Crunch cereal, a yummy part of a good breakfast.
November 13th on this day in history.
Okay.
1940 is a Walt Disney anniversary today.
1940, would that be
1940.
Dumbo?
Fantasia.
Oh, Fantasia, okay.
Was released on this day in history. One of my favorite Disney films. And my family, who loves Disney, is one of their least favorites, so I can't even see eye to eye with them. I like Fantasia and The Black Hole. If they don't like them, I'm like, but they're Disney films, but they don't like them. 1952 on this day in history. The first false fingernails were sold on this day in history in 1952. They're that old. I didn't know that. I had no idea if you'd asked me the year.
I wouldn't have known.
On this day in history, November 13th, 1980, U.S. spacecraft Voyager 1 sends back the first close-up. Well, not Voyager 6. That comes later. Sorry, I know what happened to him. Sends back the first close-up of the planet Saturn on this day. We got to see what Saturn looked like up close. That's 1980, you know. I thought it was before that, but all that stuff's fairly recent. We didn't do that until in the 80s.
Yeah.
All that stuff. What was the number one movie on this day in 1981, 40 years ago?
81, Into the Fall.
Yeah, it's not Raiders. We already talked about Raiders over the past few weeks. We've talked about other 1981 movies. It's a Terry Gilliam, and we know he's a Monty Python alumni.
Would it be... No, it would be Fisher King.
It?
Not yet.
No, it's not Fisher King. That came out in, I think, late 80s.
Time Bandits.
Time Bandits was the number one movie on this day in 1981. Consider me a Time Bandits fan. I love that movie.
It's so good.
I really do. And people didn't get it till later because it kind of flopped when it came out, and then people watched it and like, oh, I get it. It's great. It's
the
awesome.
Time Bandits Minute will be coming out, I think, starting next year.
Oh, wow.
The guys decided they wanted to record the entire season, make sure it's all done, then release it so they don't feel any pressure.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was one of the first guests, and I dropped something on them that both of them went, you have just changed our view of Time Bandits.
Well, of course. That's what a lot of these podcasts do, by the way. I do want to give a shout-out plug, too, after we do on this Day in History of a new podcast that premiered this week. Today, on this day in history, what album opened on this day, 1981, by an Australian group called Men at Work?
Men at Work.
The album Business as Usual premiered on this day in history. Men at Work, 40 years ago.
A Land Down Under.
Yeah. And I didn't know what any of that, I wasn't that.
I loved Men at Work. I still like Men at Work.
When I heard the song and they were like, he just smiled and gave me a Vegemite sandwich. is the line in the song. I'm like, what is that? And none of us knew what that was. Well, we started looking it up and checking out, and they asked Colin, what's the lead singer of Men at Work? Colin, is it Colin?
I can't remember his name.
Colin something. But he had his own band later on and still does. He goes, Vegemite is a sandwich made out of seaweed from Australia. And he goes, and it's an acquired taste. I'm like, well,
I've
I
heard
know what
that.
that means. That means it tastes terrible. So I've never had a Vegemite sandwich. 1983, on this day in history, Alvin Samples passed away on this day in history. You may know him as Junior Samples from Hee Haw. Believe it or not. He died of a heart attack at 57 years old on this day. He was born in Cumming, Georgia, just northeast of us here. Junior Samples. He owns on Hee Haw. He always was the used car guy and his little stick.
Hi, friend. Honest as a day is long, Samples here. Folks, I don't mind telling you I made a bundle pushing used cars. And starting this weekend, I'm passing my profits on to you. Come on down to the lot and ask one of our salesmen on parole to work out some terms for you. That's BR549, and hold down the collect calls. I'm no Rockefeller, you know.
I always remember that. Hee Haw. 1995, a James Bond film opened on this day in history. In 1995, Pierce Brosnan's first film, GoldenEye, was released. The 17th James Bond film opened on this day in history. 1999 saw the release on this day in history of Toy Story 2. Was on this day, which a lot of people consider as the best Toy Story film. Is the second one. A lot of people
It's
think that.
really, really good.
2018, and I'm going to go back one day, yesterday, November 12th, not November 13th. We said goodbye to Stan Lee. Passed away on 2018 on November the 12th.
It's been 3 years.
And when people go, who influenced you? When they go, hey, who influenced you growing up, as even to this day? Several people influenced me, but I always put Stan Lee on there because his writing of a lot of the characters that I read in the 70s and the comic books growing up, he was an influence on that. Birthdays today. Gary Marshall's birthday is today. American TV writer, Dick Van Dyke Show. He was a producer, The Odd Couple, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and a film director, too. He directed Pretty Woman, Runaway Bride, The Princess Diaries. He died in 2016, Gary Marshall. Penny Marshall's his sister. Tom Atkins' birthday is today. American actor. You may remember him from Escape from New York, The Fog, Halloween 3. John Carpenter loved using Tom Atkins as an actor, but he's the guy that is with Jamie Lee Curtis. He's the star of The Fog with her. And, he's the guy that's...
with Jamie Lee Curtis in The Fog?
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is in The Fog. Him and her starred in it. Don't you remember? You need to go back and watch The Fog.
Jamie Lee Curtis is in The Fog?
Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins star in The Fog. And her mom is in it, too. Janet Leigh is in The Fog as well. Sounds like somebody needs to watch The Fog again. Somebody's got a fog in their head.
Somebody
don't look it up. Don't doubt me on that. Oh, is that what it is?
I think
Your head's in a fog.
Hey, there's a fog bank out there.
Today is Gerard Butler's birthday, by the way, too. Great actor, singer. He can sing, by the way. And today is Noah Hathaway's birthday today. Actor, Battlestar Galactica, Troll, The Neverending Story. He played Atreyu, remember, in The Neverending Story, and Boxy on Battlestar Galactica. And today is also World Kindness Day.
Oh, well, we're screwed.
Wait, well, here at this station we are. Nobody says anything kind to us.
Too late.
They just don't say anything at all. Until something wrong happens, and then they really bust you. I'm going to celebrate National World Kindness Day. You look very nice today, Alan.
Oh, that's so kind of you. I enjoy having you here.
And you're doing it, too.
I'm trying.
National Kindness Day. That's great.
Best
Did you look it up?
I did.
You did? Jamie Lee Curtis is in it?
I am.
Tom Atkins? Janet Leigh?
For some reason,
John Carpenter does the music to it as well.
I do know that.
You know?
I do know it's a John Carpenter film.
Okay.
For some reason, I always think of just Adrienne Barbeau, or what's her name?
Right, as the DJ at the station at the Lighthouse.
For some reason, that's who I always...
You know how you like to give assignments? I'm going to give you an assignment. You need to watch The Fog again.
I know.
Because to me, it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, John Carpenter movie because it's so underrated. And when it came out,
I feel
it really
like I'm no
affected me.
longer qualified to be here.
Well, no, it's not true. 770-386-1450. I do want to tell everybody this right quick. The Star Trek, what have I got? I think I'm going to play it here. Star Trek, the episode where No Man Has Gone Before, which actually wound up being like the third episode of the show in airing order, but it was the pilot for the second pilot for the show. They
I
didn't
know
show
the
it
one you're
first.
talking about.
It
Yep.
was about Gary Mitchell, who got the glowing eyes and whatnot. That's why everybody was watching Star Trek in the 60s. And by the third episode, they're like, why did their uniforms change to gold? And Spock has bushy eyebrows and looks weird and everything. That's because it was the second pilot, but shown as the third or fourth episode. Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Captain's log, stardate 1312.4. The next mission of the Enterprise takes us into an unknown force field which affects the destiny of my closest friend.
I understand you least of all. Gary told me that you've been friends since he joined the service, that you asked for him aboard your first command.
It is my duty, whether pleasant or unpleasant, to listen to the reports, observations, even speculations on any subject that might affect the safety of this vessel.
It's like a man who has been blind all of his life, suddenly being given sight. Sometimes I feel there's nothing I couldn't do in time. Some people think that makes me a monster, don't they, Jip?
What would you do in my place?
Kill me?
Where No Man Has Gone Before. Star Trek, the second pilot, Gary Mitchell.
And I remember
Gary
that
Lockwood, who's
rifle.
from 2001. You know, they only used it in one episode. They never, ever used it again.
Well,
we talk about that because
it did have kind of a goofy look. I love how they changed
Right.
the phasers eventually. How now the classic phasers are so cool.
With the grips toward the front of the gun instead of the rear. Yeah, which is
but
very different.
but the rifle looked like something out of Lost in Space.
Well, yeah, out of Star Trek in the 60s. That's right.
It was just
Very
like
colorful.
put a rifle together. Oh,
Well, guess what?
It's a ray gun.
The original prop from the show sold at Heritage Auction this week for $615,000.
That ain't bad.
That ain't bad. It's a piece of television history. Say what you want. You may think it's ugly and 60s looking, but it's a part of television history.
It is.
And that's great. I would have loved to have had it. Also, it fetched more than they thought it would. George Reeves' one of his original Superman costumes from the Adventures of Superman television series sold for $350,000 at the same auction. And the leather jacket, we're talking about Sylvester Stallone again, the leather jacket that Sly Stallone wore for Rocky, the first Rocky film, sold for $325,000.
Wow.
So there's some movie memorabilia that sold at Heritage
That's a
Auction
lot of
this
nuts.
week. It is. That's
amazing.
a lot of scratch for that stuff. That's
Holy,
cool.
I should keep stuff more.
Well, our stuff's not going to be
No,
worth
that's
anything.
true. We're not, you got to be worth somebody. You got to be somebody to have
Our
something
stuff.
worth.
You don't want to
Gotcha.
keep our stuff, and we're not going to find anything in the basement. We're not going to find anything in our backyard buried. We'll find something, but it won't be worth anything.
I find
We'll
stuff in
some
my
Coke
backyard because I got 5 dogs running around.
It's buried.
Sometimes it's not.
You'd be like the Burbs and Tom Hanks. Where did this femur bone from a human come from?
Be my luck.
It's a femur bone. No.
Look, a human skull. Lucky me.
Talk about Sheriff Millsap be over at your house later that afternoon
You're like,
to ask you a few questions.
We're going to have to rope off your yard, dig it up, and then when we
That's
get
right.
done, you have to put it back. Like, what?
Yeah, your house is built on an old burial mound. Really great.
I don't even get the ghosts.
Have a nice night tonight. Have fun tearing your face off in front of the mirror. That's going to be
Remember,
fun.
that's a mild entry into horror movies.
The Halloween show. What movie would you pick for those who don't like horror films? Can you pick one? Yeah, Watch in the Woods. It's kind of a low-key Disney film. Alan said Ghostbusters kind of eased them into the horror films for people that don't like horror films. Walt, which one do you choose for people who don't like horror films?
Poltergeist.
The Fly.
He's like, well, there's nothing really horrifying. I'm like, the dude rips his face off in the mirror. Besides that.
In The Fly, he's turning into a fly and melts a guy's hand with his secretions.
And his
out of
ankle.
his mouth.
He slowly rips the ankle apart with cheese in between. I mean, like,
which gives me the creeps today. If I saw it today, it still kind of gives me the creeps. Hey, it's okay.
Well, it's his entryway. Maybe it was his entry.
Renaissance. Be careful there.
They call me Yuck Mouth, 'cause I don't brush. Oh, I like my teeth like this. They call me Yuck Mouth. No, I won't brush. How's about a little kiss? I got roast beef in my teeth, got some chicken too. Ouch, that's a cavity. Hey, that's new. Well, if you don't brush your teeth, then kids you too can be a Yuck Mouth.
Don't be a yuck mouth. Another nutritional message from the ABC Television Network.
All's quiet in Sparkle City, Captain Cleanup.
Not quite, Kid Coolid. Look there. Okay, we're taking over the neighborhood, see? You, Big Daddy Dirt Pile, drop candy and gum wrappers. And you, Sammy the Slop, throw empty cans around. And you, Filthy Frank, foul up the water in the air. Stop! You'll not mess up this town.
No.
That's it, boys. We're through. That's where you belong, in the waste can. Make all America Sparkle City. Put glitter in its place.
Now you can see why all of his friends are 14 years old.
I am Groot.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. All the chaos going on in the background, ELO playing.
I mean, you want to talk about somebody who does something different? You could have just had the whole big opening for the excitement, like the James Bond thing, where you have like the end of the last adventure kicks off the actual movie. And for James Gunn to go, well, we can do that, but it'd be a lot more interesting to watch this little dude dance for like the entire thing with it all happening in the background.
That's right.
Brilliant.
And we know James is a big fan of 70s pop and rock music, and he includes a lot of the music on his soundtrack.
And by the way, I think I told you this before. Every one of the dance moves that has been choreographed by the 3D animators, James Gunn did it for them. He said, this is what I'm imagining him doing. And rather than giving the direction, they just recorded James Gunn. And then there's video you can see on YouTube where you see James Gunn's dance, and it matches perfectly.
And CGI Groot's doing the dance exactly that way. Well, I play that because from CinemaBlend.com, Chris Pratt has reacted to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3's first shots of the day are in the can now, filming. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is a massive place. We know that, especially with the Eternals out right now. You see how massive it really is. With Phase 4 expanding the franchise on both the small and silver screens. And I love it that they're tying into the stuff on Disney Plus into the films, too. That's great. Now, lucky for the fans, one highly anticipated blockbuster finally kicked off production right here in Atlanta, Georgia. James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Chris Pratt recently reacted to filming and promised it'll be worth the wait, he says. The Guardians of the Galaxy are fan-favorite characters in the MCU, and moviegoers are very interested in what will happen in their mysterious threequel, as they're calling it. While Guardians 3 was originally supposed to be one of the first installments in Phase 4, James Gunn's temporary firing, if you remember that, in Gig, directing The Suicide Squad over at DC Warner Brothers, pushed it back a number of years. I am glad that they just didn't just haul off and hire somebody else and just go through with it, because who knows how that might have affected what would have happened. And Taika Waititi said, a lot of people are going, well, choose him. He's kind of like a fun director like James Gunn. And Taika says, I don't want to direct Guardians 3. That's James Gunn's. That's my buddy's thing. I don't want to do that.
That's his baby.
He just turned it down. I don't know if they ever offered it to him. Filming has finally begun, though, and Star-Lord actor Chris Pratt shared his thoughts on social media by saying, quote, Day one in the can. Honestly, could not have started off better. Hit the ground running with a delicate, emotional, funny, wild, complicated scene, and everyone absolutely killed it. So grateful to be puppeteered by my friend and brother, the mad genius James Gunn. Oh, my God, I promise you this movie will be worth the wait, unquote. That's what Chris Pratt said on Instagram.
Well,
which is kind of cool.
Of all the Marvel movies, those two, I could just say I could pick those two, Guardians 1 and 2, and just watch them and feel like I don't need to have seen any other Marvel movie.
They certainly escaped.
And I love them.
Well, that's definitely exciting to hear that. It sounds like the cast and crew of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are ready to bring it all to their mysterious blockbuster, it says. Considering James Gunn's third installment is expected to wrap up the current story, the pressure is definitely on. So after this movie, they're done with these characters. They're going to move on. I don't know what happens or whatever.
Different Guardians.
And I've read that the Guardians that show up in Volume 2, which is Sylvester Stallone and the diamond guy made out of glass and the other group, that's the original Guardians of the Galaxy from the comic book. I hear, if they wind up being the next group of Guardians, that's fine. We've already set them up. They're there already. So that, or you want to retain a couple people from the old group and add it to them, or however that happens. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm all for it. That sounds great.
I'm just wondering if they're actually going to do a Howard the Duck, because he did include Howard in number 2.
Yeah,
it showed up in What If.
Right, he was there too. Yeah,
and the same version of the Duck that James Gunn brought us
Yeah.
I don't know if it would fit, but I wonder if somewhere down the road, like, hey, let's do a side story.
Howard the Duck would certainly fit into the Guardians of the Galaxy realm because it's kind of over-the-top, weird comedy. I tried to read the comic as a kid, but didn't get it because it's all different kind of comedy. And
I tried to
weirdness.
rewatch the Lucas one.
Oh, no, don't do that.
It's
Why did you even do that? Did you want to just feel like torturing yourself that day or something?
Bad. I kept saying to myself, well, maybe I'm just missing the charm.
No, they missed it. They missed the charm. There's only two good things about that Howard the Duck film. Number one is the John Barry score, which is fantastic. The soundtrack is good. And you get to see Leah Thompson jump around and sing and be scantily clad for an hour and a half.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the opening credits and then the end credits.
Okay, well, that too.
Because you get the music.
So if I watch the opening credits, get the soundtrack and the end credits, then I'm fine with that.
You could do better. Okay. You could just have her picture.
Oh, yeah, just a still.
Just a still. And pick any still, your favorite still. Yeah. Opening credits, end credits. It's so bad.
I did. I like you, of course, it was many years before that, before you tried to do it again. I tried to watch it again like years ago, and I'm like, I can't do it. It's not even good by those standards. And I think George Lucas produced it, which is very, very weird, telling
it's
a
horrible
of what's to come. Everybody forgets about Howard the Duck and the other movie he did called The Radioland Murders, which flopped at the theater, too. Anything outside of Star Wars and Indiana Jones, or anything related like that, it's hard for him.
Well, he didn't even direct Indiana Jones. He just came up with the story.
He's just part of it. By the way, there's a running joke there. You know how they'll, what is it, AFI, the American Film Institute, will honor someone? Have you ever seen those videos?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have the honoree sitting at the table with his family and friends, and then celebrities will come out and give them accolades and talk about them and stuff. Well, the George Lucas one is great. You watch it, and then Shatner comes out on the screen, on the stage, and he's like, "Hey, Star Wars is great. Star Trek changed everything, though, didn't it? Wasn't Star Trek great? I mean, it really." And they all kind of start looking around, and he takes out his notes, and he's like, "Mr. Shatner, I want you to open the show." And Star Wars? Wait. I'm saying Star Trek. He's like, wait a minute, I can do Star Wars. The stormtroopers are trying to carry him off.
Yeah.
And he does My Way by Frank Sinatra.
And more, much, much more than this. You did it your way. Oh, regrets. You've had a few. Anyone see Howard the Duck? No, the Sith picture, I love that. I love the Sith picture. It's a great Sith picture. But then again, too few to mention. You did what you had to do.
And it's a running joke with him that Howard the Duck flopped.
Yeah.
And it really did. And it really is. It's not because of any other reason other than it's just bad. It's just terrible. He doesn't even look the same way.
No, but they spent a lot of money from Industrial Light and Magic.
He's way too cute.
Didn't make it work.
So George Lucas flop Howard the Duck. If they do a Howard the Duck with the current MCU, I'm not a big fan of Howard the Duck, but kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm sure it'll be good if they do it entertaining.
It depends. I think it's good where it is right now.
Well,
just sort of a reference, and that's it.
And he's in the back. He has a line every now and then, kind of like the dog walking around with a space helmet on. That's a character in Marvel too, but they'll just keep it in the background, every now and then. Well, an actor passed away this week. I think I have time to get to this before we go to break. If not, we'll hold it over. Gavin O'Hurley, I think is how you pronounce his name. You hear about him passing away? You may.
Yes,
you'll know
it
who
was
he
this
is.
week because he was from Happy Days, right?
He played Chuck on Happy Days. He died at 70. He's best known for playing Chuck on Happy Days. There were two actors that played Chuck. He died in Bath, England on September the 15th. His brother, Cormac, confirmed to Variety the cause of death was not disclosed, but his brother confirmed that it was not COVID. After making an appearance on an episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show in 73, O'Hurley broke out on Happy Days as Chuck, the eldest Cunningham sibling. Chuck was a high school jock and was almost always seen carrying a basketball on the show. He was played by three different actors. Rick Carrot in the show's pilot, O'Hurley for the first two seasons, and Randolph Roberts for 2 episodes in season 2. Giving way to the saying the Chuck Cunningham syndrome in Happy Days to describe TV characters who disappeared from shows and were later written off as they never existed. Yeah, because they never reference him for the rest of the show ever.
I know they didn't reference him, but didn't they say something about him being gone in the army or something? Like they explained him being gone by
the time.
He's in the army.
After Happy Days, he appeared in a string of film and television roles, including The Ghost of Cypress Swamp, The Amazing Spider-Man TV show in 79, Superman 3, and Never Say Never Again, James Bond in 1983. He was in Star Trek Voyager in 1995. He was also in Twin Peaks, Rich Man, Poor Man, Death Wish 3, and Tales from the Crypt. By the way, Ron Howard sent a special message out about him because Ron Howard directed him in Willow. He's in Willow as the guy from the other faction that Mad Mardigan, Val Kilmer, wants to bring in to help him fight Bavmorda. Remember the other guy on the horse? That's him. His father was Dan from RoboCop, the old man.
Alexander Salkind presents Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor.
Watch the trees.
As you've never seen them before. With more action. More twists.
You're going to go down in history as the man who killed Superman.
No. And more fun. Oh, I'm sorry. Than Superman has ever had before. Superman 3, rated PG.
Starts Friday, June 17th. Please check newspapers for a theater near you.
Get ready for a new look to ABC's All-Star Saturday. Starting with that cool cat, the Pink Panther.
Oh, tear 'em apart.
And Bangface. Then it's the new 90-minute challenge of the Super Friends. Followed by everybody's favorite, Scooby's All-Stars, starting Saturday.
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air here. You ever been to downtown Cartersville? Have you ever been to Rock and Shop? Let me tell you something that's going on. They're going to be hosting a live music event at their store right here in downtown Cartersville on Saturday, November the 20th.
Wait, that's next week.
It is next week. Then on Black Friday, November the 26th, a small business Saturday, November 27th, Rock and Shop will be welcoming huge new shipments of rock T-shirts, turntables, and over 200 new releases on vinyl. That's right. That's records for you people that don't know what I'm talking about. By the way, are you an ABBA fan? ABBA will also be releasing their first new album in 40 years this month, and Rock and Shop will have it. Eddie Bruce down there and the crew. Black Friday is a record store event, and the shop will open at 8 in the morning, 8 a.m., and lines will be forming, and they will be early, so don't miss out on the chance to purchase your favorites. Come and see Eddie Bruce and the folks at Rock and Shop in downtown Cartersville. If you're looking for T-shirts and vinyl and music and classic rock things and everything cool rock and roll, go down and see him. Eddie Bruce. I mean, Eddie Brock is Venom in Marvel, and David Bruce Banner is the Hulk. So Eddie Bruce.
I always think of Iron Maiden because the mascot is Eddie, and Bruce Dickinson is the lead singer of Iron Maiden.
Well, the creature on the Iron Maiden covers could have been some sort of villain in Marvel. They could have fought him. He could be like DC had a comic book character called Dead Man. He was dead, but he was a ghost, and he could fight from the other side with a costume and everything. He was called Dead Man. It's actually a very well written book. When it comes to comic books and stuff, you have so many choices. So many
it's almost
characters.
like television.
It is. Or in the movies. You're right. You have so many different characters. If you don't like reading Captain America, you can read The Punisher, which is completely different. If you don't like Superman, you could read Batman, which is kind of the opposite of Superman and stuff. Or not really. They're both heroes. They just go about it different ways. That's why the one What If they did, which I'm wondering if they'll do that in a new season. One of the best What Ifs they ever wrote for Marvel was What if Frank Castle became Captain America, the guy who was the Punisher.
Oh.
That was a completely different story. His costume looked like Captain America, only on his chest. No, it was red, white, and blue, but on his chest, the skull was still on his chest, and the skull face was on his shield. So it was a very different
that's
Captain
cool.
America. Very different story, very cool. And,
we talked about Charlie Cox and Daredevil. If they do bring him back, John Bernthal was great as a Punisher.
He was, and I'm one of those that thought Thomas Jane was great in the film with John Travolta. I thought the movie Punisher was a fantastically done Punisher movie. The sequel that came out, Punisher Warzone, after that, not so much. It was a mess. Kind of like the sequel to Ghost Rider. I'm like, how much worse can Ghost Rider get? Oh, a lot worse. So how can they make a worse movie than Ghost Rider, the first one? Oh, they did.
In part 2.
Okay. Don't just Sony will outdo themselves if you just let them in the bad department. They really will. Now Morbius, Jared Leto playing Morbius. I don't know how that's going to be since they're kind of inching toward bringing everything together. So maybe it'll be a whole lot more entertaining since they're trying to bring everything in and tie everything in and make it
Jared
a little
Leto's
bit better.
Such a weird actor. I'll tell you, he was good in 2049. Blade
He's
Runner
a good
2049.
actor. He's one of those weird eccentrics that's actually a very talented actor.
Such the wrong choice for Joker, or letting him do his. It was.
Yes, it was.
It's another reason I couldn't watch at Justice League.
I'm
done.
It's no secret that Alan Sanders, the guy I'm talking to here, Are you a fan of vodka? You like vodka every now and then? With a mix and something? Or
one might
straight
call me
or
an
something?
aficionado.
Okay, that's what I thought. You might like vodka. Then you might like this story from Food Beast I've got right here. Foodbeast.com. Yes,
Make sure we say
that's
it
what I said.
properly.
Make sure I say it properly. How about a vodka tie-in with Arby's? Did you hear about this?
Okay, I'm interested.
Arby's has
roast
had
beef
a
is always
long
good.
boasted about their wonderful, delicious supply of meats. They say it with their whole chest, even with the spokesperson shouting it at every chance in a deep voice saying, "We have the meats." Even their crinkle fries, the new crinkle fries they have, and curly fries have gotten deserved love for how good they are. And they are, too, by the way. I'm a big fan of just about everything at Arby's. By the way, their Reuben sandwiches out of this world. I love the Arby's Reuben. But for Arby's to come out with their own vodka, besides having the meats, Arby's now has our attention, this says. This week, Arby's announced the upcoming launch of its limited edition curly fry and crinkle fry vodka.
Wait.
That's funny because that's just what it says. LOL. What? Wait. You heard me right. Crinkle fry and curly fry vodka.
I keep reading.
It says it makes sense with vodka being a potato-based spirit, after all, and to have it taste like Arby's delicious curly and crinkle fries could be a plus, but still, what a way for the fast food brand to dive right into the spirits market. If you're curious, Arby's curly fry and crinkle fry vodka will be available in limited quantities on November the 18th at 12 p.m. Eastern, and in a second drop on November the 22nd. It can be purchased on arbysvodka.com for $59.95. That's $60 a bottle, I guess, including shipping and handling. Well, it's including shipping and handling, so that's a deal then, I guess, because they could charge you for shipping.
Sure.
So I don't know
Wait,
about that.
Are they trying to say that it's made from the same potatoes that make the fries, or are they saying it tastes like?
That part is not in the story. I'm not really sure. I guess it's up to you or us to speculate that before it comes out. That's the kind of thing where I'd like to sample it before I pull the trigger and buy something.
I'm not sure I'm interested in a vodka that tastes like I'm eating a curly fry.
Right, but vodka too. But chase it. You'd rather maybe just eat the curly fries and chase it with a shot of vodka.
That would be much more preferred.
Maybe they can just take care of all of it at once this way. Maybe that's what they're thinking.
I am pleasantly intrigued, but I have some reservations.
That's like KFC. Remember they came out with their chicken candle scent on their chicken, their fried chicken scent.
I could understand having that scent in the house.
Really good.
I'd be hungry all the time.
And their chicken smelling Crocs shoes they had too.
Now,
where you want your feet to smell like chicken.
My dogs would chew my Crocs up. Chicken smelling Crocs?
It's KFC.
And stinky feet at the same time?
That's great.
That's like dessert and a meal at the same time.
I've got another story here. I want to do this one for the top of the hour. This is kind of getting into the Christmas mood here, so let me do this because I know you've already put up your Christmas tree already.
One.
Yeah, I know why you start already, because you have to. Because you got like 20 trees to put up, between now and
each
Christmas.
room.
So let's go. From Marietta, Georgia, this is the Associated Press. A Georgia judge has jokingly banned Elf on the Shelf. Did you hear about this?
No.
Santa may have fewer eyes in homes this Christmas season after a Georgia judge jokingly banned Elf on the Shelf. Cobb County Superior Court Chief Judge Robert Leonard posted a mock order on Twitter Thursday banishing the elves. Quote, tired of living in Elf on the Shelf tyranny? Not looking forward to the elf forgetting to move and causing your kids emotional distress? I am a public servant and will take the heat for you. My gift to tired parents, unquote, Leonard tweeted.
That is awesome.
According to the holiday tradition, the elves hide in homes for weeks before Christmas and reports back to Santa on who's been naughty and nice. The elf dolls are supposed to move to a different location each night. Inexplicably, elves sometimes move and don't move overnight. Quote, when those elves do not move, it leaves our children or tender years in tender years of states of extreme emotional distress, unquote.
These are called first world problems, by the way.
He recalled a horrific incident in his own home when, quote, 3 children were sent to school in tears, with one being labeled an elf murderer and accused of making the elf lose his magic because of that. So he has banished Elf on the Shelf, the judge in Marietta for Cobb County. So
nicely done, sir.
I think that's
nicely done. You made national headlines.
Yep.
We can't even make national headlines here.
We'll file that right there in the old
great
thing there. These papers, back when we used to do, if I get sidetracked by a squirrel here, when we would do independent films. Even you and I did this once when we would need a flickering fire sound. A lot of people say onion petals do well when you crinkle the onion petals on a microphone for Foley work for sound. Sometimes you do paper just right too, depending on how strong or stiff the paper is. It sounds like a crackling fire, and what's even better is when you actually set it on fire and listen to it. It sounds crackling.
But you shouldn't try to move it while it's on fire.
And I don't want to hold it. Use tongs. Use the rubber asbestos gloves when you do that. So we got a few minutes before the top of the hour here. When we're having fun doing this, the time goes by so fast. Kind of like being in an amusement park.
Yeah.
When we're on our last day at Universal Studios, we're like, last day? I'm like, what? Didn't we just get here like an hour ago?
Right. No.
Or when we go to Six Flags as a kid, I'm like, oh, come on. How fast is the weekend over when we were kids,
It took like forever for Christmas to show up, and then it was gone in the blink of an eye.
Right. And I've reached a point now, I don't know if I've told you this or not, but I spent years at jobs that I hated. You do a job, 9 to 5, go home, whatever your hours might be. I never thought I'd reach this point in my life where weekends and weekdays for me now, there's not much of a difference anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with my state of mind, because I actually have a couple of jobs that I have now that I don't mind and I actually kind of like. So now I'm not grinding going, oh, I can't wait for the weekend. I'm going to kill myself before the weekend gets here. I'm not like that anymore. I haven't been that way for years. And I think it's great. If you reach that, you've really done a good job, I think.
I feel very badly for people who live in constant misery for the jobs they're staying in.
I know a lot of people do because they hate their job.
And some people take jobs just for the paycheck. And I appreciate you need money. We all need to pay bills.
Of course, we're not saying that.
But there is a certain level where having the ability to love so much what you do, it doesn't feel like work.
And whatever it may be. I mean, and then we wind up on the weekend.
Even if it's hard hours. There are people that, if you just love what you do, it makes all the difference.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to when I was younger, I'm like, I hope I reach that one day. I really do. I was in my 20s just hating life. And
now we just need Sirius XM or somebody to say, why don't you come? You can keep doing what you're doing, but we're just going to give you a wheelbarrow full of money.
Well, okay. Hey, I'm not going to look the gift radio in the mouth, because I'm glad I get to do it, whatever I do, whoever I happen to be.
Yep.
And to be able to look at you, it is World Kindness Day, and it's always great to look at your face while I'm here.
You're just being too kind.
World Kindness Day. Speak down there. See you next week.